You're not even her real granddaughter. Victor spat, his face contorted with rage in the dim light of grandmother Lillian's study. Only blood relatives deserve the family fortune. The heavy oak shelves lined with leather-bound medical journals stood as silent witnesses to his cruelty. My grandmother had been buried only 3 days ago, and already the family was fracturing over her will. What are you talking about? I managed, my voice barely audible over the thundering of my heart. The familiar scent of old books and leather that had once brought comfort now seemed suffocating. Don't play innocent, Phoenix. Your mother Catherine's little secret isn't so secret anymore. He paced the oriental rug, pausing to glare at the formal portrait of grandmother hanging above the fireplace. Lillian was obsessed with bloodlines. Once Harrison confirms you've got no Mitchell blood, you'll get nothing. I looked him directly in the eyes, fighting to keep my voice steady. Do you promise to keep your word about this? That only blood relatives deserve grandmother's inheritance? Absolutely, he declared, lifting his chin with the same imperious tilt I'd seen countless times throughout my childhood. I'll make sure the family legacy stays with real Mitchells, not imposters. My name is Phoenix. I'm 32 years old, and until 5 minutes ago, I believed Victor was my biological father. Now, standing in my grandmother's Georgian mansion in suburban Boston, I was apparently discovering otherwise. The study seemed to close in around me, and suddenly I was 6 years old again, watching my first mother Marianne, Victor's wife who had raised me, slip away in a hospital bed, her life cut short by a faulty medical device from our own company. The memory of that day still haunted me, the sterile hospital room, the failing monitors, Marianne's last whispered, "I love you," and Victor's strange, detached comfort afterward. Within a year of Marianne's death, Victor had married Catherine, who I would later come to know as my second mother. She had always shown me a peculiar mix of guilt and overwhelming love, as if trying to make up for something I couldn't understand. Now, 26 years later, I was beginning to see why. What I wanted was simple, the fair treatment grandmother Lillian had intended in her will. She had specifically mentioned me during our last conversation about her estate plans, her eyes holding a knowing look I hadn't understood at the time. Standing in my way was the man who had always viewed me with thinly veiled contempt. The man whose approval I had spent decades trying to earn unsuccessfully. The man who had pushed me into quality control at Mitchell Medical Technologies, perhaps as some twisted form of penance for Marianne's death. You can attend the will reading next week if you must, he continued dismissively, but don't expect anything. I've already spoken with Harrison about challenging any provisions that include you. Harrison was Victor's longtime friend and our family attorney. The mention of their apparent collusion sent a chill through me. I'll be there, I replied quietly. Grandmother wanted me there. Sentiment, he scoffed. Lillian always had a blind spot for you. Fortunately, the law cares about facts, not feelings. As he strode from the room, I sank into grandmother's desk chair, running my fingers over the polished walnut surface where she had written countless letters, reviewed business documents, and most recently, finalized her will. My phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, "We need to talk about your real father tonight." Alone. I stared at the message, unease crawling up my spine. If Victor wasn't my biological father, then who was? And how had this secret remained hidden for 32 years? More importantly, why was it surfacing now, just days after grandmother's death and days before her fortune would be distributed? The memory of Marianne flooded back, her gentle hands, her warm smile, the way she had loved me unconditionally despite knowing I wasn't her biological child. She had been the one to encourage my interest in medical device safety, perhaps knowing even then that her life would be claimed by a faulty product from our own company. Growing up as a Mitchell meant navigating a world of privilege and weighty expectations. The Mitchell fortune, built on medical device patents and shrewd investments, had sustained 3 generations of the family in considerable luxury. Victor was the elder of 2 sons, which automatically positioned him as the presumptive heir to the majority of the Mitchell assets. His younger brother Nathan had been the family rebel, brilliant but restless, unwilling to conform to our grandfather's rigid vision of the family legacy. He'd left Boston to pursue medical research on the West Coast, returning only occasionally for major family events. My memories of Uncle Nathan were limited but warm, his easy laugh, thoughtful gifts, and the way he'd speak to me as though my opinions mattered. In contrast, my relationship with Victor had always been strained. He was a man who measured worth in achievements and status. "She lacks the Mitchell drive," he'd remark to Catherine when he thought I couldn't hear. "Too soft, too unfocused." Despite graduating with honors and establishing myself as head of quality control at Mitchell Medical Technologies, nothing I accomplished seemed to meet his standard. Grandmother Lillian had been my sanctuary. Unlike Victor, she valued my interest in medical ethics and device safety, encouraging me to pursue a path that honored both my passions and Marianne's memory. During my undergraduate years, I'd visit her estate every Sunday for tea, listening to her stories of family history and her own quiet rebellions against the constraints placed on women of her generation. "Remember, Phoenix," she often told me, "a Mitchell makes their own path." Her death at 86 had been peaceful but left an emptiness I was still struggling to navigate. The knowledge that I'd lost my greatest advocate within the family made her absence even more profound. In the days following her funeral, I noticed subtle changes in Victor's behavior: heightened scrutiny when I interacted with other family members, hushed conversations with Harrison that abruptly ended when I entered a room. I'd dismissed these observations as grief manifesting in different ways. But now they took on a more sinister significance. The last time I'd seen grandmother alive, she'd held my hand with surprising strength and whispered, "Trust your instincts, Phoenix. Not everything is as it appears." At the time, I'd attributed her cryptic words to medication or fatigue. Now I wondered if she'd been trying to prepare me for the storm that was about to break over our family. As I left grandmother's study to meet Catherine, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into a family drama decades in the making. One with roots deeper than I could yet comprehend, stretching back to those early days before Marianne's death, when the foundations of our family's lies were first laid. Catherine was waiting for me at her favorite cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the city where Mitchells were just ordinary people. She looked smaller somehow, her usually impeccable appearance slightly disheveled, eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. "I never wanted you to find out this way," she began without preamble, her fingers nervously turning her wedding band. "Victor shouldn't have told you like that. It was cruel and self-serving." "Tell me everything," I said softly. "From the beginning." She took a deep breath, her eyes focused on something distant. "I was 22 when I met Nathan. He was brilliant, passionate about medical research, everything his older brother Victor wasn't. We fell in love, planned a future together. The pieces were starting to fall into place." "Nathan. Uncle Nathan is my real father?" Catherine nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "When he received that prestigious fellowship on the West Coast, we agreed he should go. It was an incredible opportunity. But soon after he left, I discovered I was pregnant." "Why didn't you tell him?" "I tried. But Victor intercepted my letters, my calls. He and Marianne had been trying for years to have a child. He convinced me that giving you to them was the best solution. Marianne would raise you as her own, and I could still be part of your life, just not as your mother." The memory of Marianne's unconditional love took on new meaning. She had known the truth all along, yet had loved me as her own. "Victor presented it as a perfect solution," Catherine continued. "Marianne desperately wanted a child, Nathan was engaged to someone else by then, or so Victor claimed, and the Mitchell name would protect you. I was young, scared, and alone. It seemed like the only way." "And Marianne? She agreed to this?" "She was an angel," Catherine's voice softened. "She knew everything and still welcomed both of us with open arms. She made sure I could stay close, got Victor to hire me at the company. She was the one who insisted I remain in your life." The weight of this revelation settled over me. When she died, Victor saw an opportunity. He'd always been obsessed with keeping the Mitchell fortune in what he considered the right hands. Marrying me was his way of maintaining control, of ensuring the secret stayed buried. Did Nathan ever know about any of this? Catherine shook her head. Victor made sure he stayed away. Every time Nathan tried to return to Boston, Victor would create some crisis at the West Coast branch that required his attention. I thought of the few times I'd seen Nathan over the years, the way he'd looked at me with a warmth I'd never understood. And grandmother Lillian? She knew everything, Catherine smiled sadly. Nothing escaped that woman. She kept all the letters I tried to send Nathan, documented every lie Victor told. She was waiting for the right moment, gathering evidence. Her last words to me, she said not everything was as it appeared. Lillian played a long game, Catherine agreed. She knew Victor would eventually overreach, try to claim everything for himself. She made sure the truth would come out when it needed to. The implications were staggering. Every memory needed re-examination, Victor's constant disapproval, Marianne's fierce protection, Catherine's overwhelming guilt and love, Nathan's brief but meaningful appearances in my life. There's more, Catherine said, reaching into her bag. She pulled out a worn envelope, yellowed with age. Marianne left this for you. She made me promise to give it to you if the truth ever came out. My hands trembled as I opened the letter, recognizing Marianne's elegant handwriting. My dearest Phoenix. If you're reading this, the truth has finally come to light. I want you to know that loving you was the greatest joy of my life. Your mother Catherine entrusted you to me, and I tried every day to be worthy of that trust. But there's something else you need to know. The medical device that failed during my surgery, it wasn't the first. Victor knew there were problems, had seen the test results, but he buried them. Profit over safety, always. I've left evidence with Lillian. Use it wisely. And remember that family isn't about blood or names, it's about love, about the choices we make every day to protect those who depend on us. All my love. Marianne. The cafe seemed to spin around me as the implications sank in. Victor hadn't just stolen my birthright, he'd been responsible for Marianne's death, had knowingly sent faulty devices into hospitals. There's one more thing, Catherine said quietly. Nathan is back in Boston. He's been asking questions about Marianne's death, investigating the device failures. Victor's been trying to discredit him, but I need to see him, I said, standing up. Where is he? Be careful, Catherine warned. Victor's already moving against us. Harrison filed a petition this morning to freeze all access to company records and delay the will reading. Let them try to stop me, I said, my voice steady. I'm done letting Victor control this family's story. I drove to Nathan's apartment with my heart thundering in my chest. The modest building was a far cry from the Mitchell mansion, reflecting the life of a man who'd chosen research over wealth. He opened the door, and I found myself staring into eyes that matched my own. The same dark Mitchell eyes that had always marked me as different from Victor and Marianne. Phoenix, he said softly, and in his voice I heard decades of loss and longing. I think we have a lot to talk about. Inside his apartment, papers covered every surface as medical reports, device schematics, test results. He'd been building a case against Victor's corruption, not knowing it would lead him back to his own daughter. Did you ever suspect? I asked. About me? Every time I saw you, he admitted. Something in your smile, your determination, you reminded me so much of Catherine. But Victor kept me away, and when Marianne died. He paused, collecting himself. I tried to investigate, but Victor buried everything. Not everything, I said, pulling out Marianne's letter. She left evidence. And so did grandmother Lillian. As Nathan read the letter, years of confusion and pain crystallized into understanding on his face. All this time, he whispered. Victor's been playing us all. Not anymore, I said firmly. We have proof now, of everything. The question is, what do we do with it? Nathan's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw my own determination reflected back at me. We take it all back, he said. Everything he stole, your birthright, the truth about Marianne's death, the company's integrity. We make it right. We spent hours going through his research, combining it with Marianne's evidence and grandmother's documentation. A pattern emerged, years of covered-up device failures, falsified safety reports, strategic marriages and manipulations designed to keep power concentrated in Victor's hands. As night fell, Catherine joined us, completing our strange family circle. Looking at them, my real parents, finally united in purpose, I felt a strength I'd never known before. Remember what grandmother always said, I smiled. A Mitchell makes their own path. She'd be proud of you, Nathan said softly. All of you, Catherine added, including Marianne in our thoughts. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Victor and Harrison would fight us with every weapon at their disposal. But tonight, surrounded by truth and love, I finally knew who I was, Phoenix, daughter of Nathan and Catherine, raised by Marianne's love, guided by Lillian's wisdom. And I was ready for war. The elegant offices of Mills and Associates signaled old money and discretion. Harrison had requested this urgent meeting, no doubt hoping to contain the situation before it exploded beyond control. I made him wait 15 minutes before entering, Marianne's letter and Lillian's documents securely backed up and distributed to multiple trusted sources. Phoenix, he greeted me with practiced cordiality that didn't reach his eyes. I thought we should discuss certain developments before things become unnecessarily complicated. You mean before the truth about Victor's criminal negligence becomes public? I watched his practiced smile falter. Or perhaps you'd like to discuss your role in covering up the device failures that killed my mother Marianne? Harrison's composure cracked slightly. Those are serious allegations without any factual basis. Really? I opened my laptop, turning it to show him the evidence we'd compiled. Serial numbers of defective devices, dates of failed safety tests, offshore accounts used to silence families of victims. Marianne documented everything before she died. These documents could be damaging to many people's reputations, he said carefully. Perhaps we could discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement? I slid his bribe offer back across the desk unopened. The only arrangement I'm interested in is justice. For Marianne, for all the other victims, and for the family Victor tried to destroy. Victor built this company. Victor killed people for profit, I cut him off. And you helped him hide it. Now you have a choice, cooperate with the federal investigation I've already initiated, or go down with him. His face drained of color. Federal investigation? FDA, SEC, and the Justice Department are very interested in our evidence. Particularly the offshore accounts you set up. Harrison reached for his phone, but I was already standing. Don't bother calling Victor. He's probably busy dealing with the federal agents executing search warrants at his office and home. As if on cue, his phone buzzed with breaking news alerts. Mitchell Medical Technologies stock was plummeting as word of the investigation spread. You'll regret this, he called after me as I reached the door. No, Harrison. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of depositions and document reviews. Nathan's research combined with Marianne's evidence painted a damning picture, years of systematic fraud that had cost countless lives. Victor's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. Board members distanced themselves, long silent employees came forward with new evidence, and company archives yielded more proof of his crimes. But Victor had one last card to play. The morning of the will reading, his legal team filed an emergency motion challenging my right to attend, claiming fraud and misrepresentation. He's desperate, Nathan observed as we reviewed the filing. He knows once grandmother's letters become public record, everything's over. The hearing room was packed when I arrived. Victor sat at the front, still projecting confidence despite his obvious exhaustion. Harrison huddled with their legal team, papers spread across the table. Judge Maxwell studied the room over her reading glasses. Before we proceed with the will reading, we need to address the standing challenge filed this morning. Mr. Mitchell claims Miss Phoenix Mitchell obtained her position through fraudulent means. Your evidence, Mr. Mills? Harrison stood, straightening his tie. Your Honor, we have DNA evidence proving Phoenix Mitchell is not Victor Mitchell's biological daughter, making her claims to the Mitchell inheritance invalid. Interesting timing, the judge noted. And how was this DNA evidence obtained? From a water glass, Your Honor. At a family dinner. Without consent or proper chain of custody, I interjected. But since we're discussing DNA evidence. I nodded to Nathan, who stood. I'd like to introduce my biological father, Nathan Mitchell. We have properly documented DNA tests confirming our relationship. Victor's face contorted with rage. This is absurd. Nathan has no claim. Actually, Lillian's personal attorney Bernard's voice cut through the chaos as he entered the room. I have evidence directly relevant to this matter. He moved slowly to the bench, helped by his daughter supporting his elbow. Despite his recent illness, his eyes were sharp and clear. Bernard, Victor sputtered. You're supposed to be in the hospital. Amazing recovery, Bernard smiled thinly. Must be those Mitchell medical devices. When they work properly, of course. He placed a thick folder on the judge's desk. Your Honor, I was Lillian Mitchell's personal attorney for 40 years. This file contains her private documentation regarding the Mitchell family, including evidence that Victor Mitchell himself was adopted as an infant. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Victor lunged for the folder but was restrained by his lawyers. Furthermore, Bernard continued calmly, I have here Lillian's sworn statement regarding her knowledge of Phoenix's true parentage, Victor's systematic corporate fraud, and his role in covering up the medical device failures that killed his first wife, Mary Ann. Judge Maxwell spent several minutes reviewing the documents, her expression growing darker. Mr. Mills, were you aware of these facts when you filed this morning's motion? Harrison's professional demeanor cracked. Your Honor, because filing false statements to this court is a serious offense. One that could result in disbarment. The next hour became a master class in justice. Judge Maxwell systematically dismantled Victor's claims while building a case for criminal charges. When federal agents entered the room, Victor tried to flee but was caught at the emergency exit. Victor Mitchell, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and negligent homicide, the lead agent announced, reading him his rights as handcuffs clicked into place. You can't do this to me. Victor shouted. I built this company. I protected the family fortune. No, I said, standing to face him. You destroyed lives for profit. You killed Mary Ann. You separated me from my real parents. And you did it all for money that was never truly yours. His face went ashen as the implications hit him. By his own insistence on blood inheritance, he had disqualified himself from everything he'd schemed to control. The irony, Nathan said quietly, is that if you'd simply been honest, been a decent human being, none of this would have happened. You chose greed over family, profit over lives. And now you've lost everything. As they led Victor away, Harrison tried to slip out but was stopped by federal agents. Harrison Mills, you're also under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Bernard remained composed as chaos swirled around us. Shall we proceed with the actual reading now? He suggested mildly. Lillian left very specific instructions for this moment. The remaining family members settled into their seats as Bernard opened Lillian's will. His voice carried clearly through the stunned silence. I, Lillian Mitchell, being of sound mind and clear purpose, hereby declare the following. First, let it be known that I have always been aware of Phoenix's true parentage. Nathan and Catherine's love produced a daughter worthy of the Mitchell name in every way that matters. Second, I have documented Victor's crimes and deceptions, including his own adoption and his role in Mary Ann's death. These papers have been held in trust, waiting for the moment when truth could no longer be denied. To Phoenix, I leave not only my personal estate but my controlling shares in Mitchell Medical Technologies. Use them to restore the company's integrity, to honor Mary Ann's sacrifice, and to save the lives your father Victor considered expendable. To Nathan and Catherine, I leave my hopes that you will finally find the happiness that was stolen from you. The trust that Victor so desperately sought to control passes to you and your descendants, the true Mitchell bloodline he tried to erase. And to Victor, I leave this message: your own obsession with blood legacy has become your undoing. A Mitchell makes their own path, not through inheritance or deceit, but through character and courage. Let this be the day when truth triumphs over lies, justice over greed, and love over mere blood. Bernard closed the will as cameras flashed outside the courthouse. Mitchell Medical Technologies stock had been temporarily suspended from trading as news of the arrests and succession changes rocked the financial world. But I barely noticed the chaos. I was looking at the family portrait on the wall, grandmother Lillian in her prime, surrounded by the dynasty she had built. She had known this day would come, had prepared for it with the same meticulous care she had shown in all things. She was quite a woman, Nathan said softly, following my gaze. She orchestrated all of this, I realized. Every document saved, every piece of evidence preserved. She made sure justice would come, even if she didn't live to see it. Catherine took my hand, her eyes bright with tears and triumph. She lived to see you become the person who could make it happen. That was enough for her. As we left the courthouse, reporters shouted questions about the company's future, about Victor's crimes, about the dramatic revelations of the day. But those stories could wait. Right now, I had a family to rebuild, a company to reform, and a legacy to restore. Not Victor's legacy of greed and deception, but Marianne's legacy of love and sacrifice, Lillian's legacy of patient justice, and the true Mitchell legacy of integrity and purpose. The truth had finally broken free, and with it came not just justice, but the chance for healing. For all of us. 1 year had passed, and the garden was in full bloom. I sat on the old stone bench, watching Nathan, Dad, teach my young cousin Emma how to plant roses. His patience and gentle guidance with children never failed to warm my heart. Who would have thought the once distant Uncle Nathan would become such a doting father and beloved mentor to our extended family? Hot chocolate for the gardeners? Catherine called from the patio, carrying a tray of steaming mugs. My mother's smile had grown more radiant with each passing month, the shadows of old secrets finally lifted from her eyes. She had taken to hosting Sunday family brunches, filling our home with the warmth and laughter it had always lacked under Victor's cold reign. The morning paper lay forgotten on the garden table, its headline a stark reminder of our recent past. Former CEO Victor faces additional charges, prison term expected to double. The accompanying photo showed him in prison orange, gray-faced and hollow-eyed, all his former arrogance shattered. His former ally Harrison, disbarred and disgraced, had been reduced to working as a grocery store clerk in a small town, shunning any reminder of his past life. But their downfall was merely a footnote now. Our focus was on the joy of the present, like watching Nathan and Catherine slow dancing in the kitchen when they thought no one was looking, or the way Emma's laughter echoed through the halls that had once been so silent. Phoenix. Emma called, her hands covered in dirt. Come see what we planted. Grandpa Nathan says these will bloom pink, just like the ones Marianne loved. Grandpa Nathan. The title still brought tears to his eyes every time she said it. After the truth came out, our extended family had embraced him completely, making up for decades of lost connections. But here in our home, life bloomed. Nathan and Catherine's wedding photos joined the family gallery, their second chance at love captured in moments of pure joy. Emma's height marks appeared on the kitchen doorframe, alongside notes of her accomplishments and funny sayings. My own smile in recent photos showed a happiness I'd never known possible. Story time. Emma announced, climbing onto Nathan's lap with her favorite book. As he began to read, his voice warm and animated, Catherine snuggled closer to me on the couch. Through the window, Marianne's roses swayed in the evening breeze, their sweet scent carrying memories of her love. This was our victory, not the fall of our enemies, but the rise of our family's true spirit. Every laugh, every hug, every moment of connection was a testament to the power of love over greed, of truth over deception. I was Phoenix, daughter of Nathan and Catherine, raised by Marianne's love, blessed by Lillian's wisdom. And finally, completely, radiantly happy.